It begins with a battlefield, not the kind with swords and shields, but the one you and I wake up to every single day, the battlefield of life. Here, the enemies don't wear armor. They wear the face of failure, the mask of betrayal, the shadow of fear. And most people, they fall, not because the world is too heavy, but because their minds are too fragile. The human problem, why we break. Think of the moments that broke people around you, a lost job, a heartbreak, a business that collapsed, a harsh comment that dug too deep. Look closely. Did they really lose everything, or did they lose control over themselves? The truth is brutal. Most people are like glass. They look solid until pressure cracks them. Their strength isn't real, it's borrowed from comfort, from approval, from stability. The moment life removes those supports, they shatter. Seneca warned us about this weakness. It is not that life is short, but that we waste much of it. Wasted, worrying about opinions, craving validation, building castles on sand. And when the storm comes, those castles collapse. The illusion of invincibility. Today, in 2025, we live in a strange paradox. People have more luxuries than Marcus Aurelius ever did, yet they are weaker than the poorest Roman slave. Why? Because comfort breeds fragility, because pleasure breeds dependency, because we've mistaken ease for strength. Go on social media and watch one rude comment and someone spirals into depression, one breakup and someone loses their will to live, one failure and someone abandons their dream forever. We call this normal, but the Stoics called it slavery. Slavery to external things. The Stoic warrior's lens now contrasts this with the Stoic warrior. Epictetus was beaten, chained, and enslaved, but he said calmly, "You may chain my leg, but not even Zeus has power over my will." Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, faced plagues, betrayals, and endless wars. He still wrote in his journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. See the difference? Where others break, the Stoic bends. Where others collapse, the Stoic adapts. Where others shatter, the Stoic transforms pain into armor. The anatomy of breaking psychology today explains it clearly. Humans break because of cognitive distortion. The mind exaggerates pain, magnifies fear, and predicts doom. You fail once, your brain whispers, "You're a failure." Someone leaves you, your brain lies, "No one will ever stay." You lose money, your brain screams, "Your life is over." This is why people collapse, not because the event was fatal, but because the interpretation was. Seneca saw this centuries ago. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. The Stoics understood the mind is the battlefield. Win there, and you win everywhere. A tale of two warriors. Picture this scene. Two soldiers side by side facing a brutal storm. Both are cold. Both are hungry. Both are exhausted. One cries, "Why me? I can't take this anymore." The other whispers, "This is my test. This is where I sharpen my soul." Same storm, different mind. One breaks, one becomes unbreakable. The trap of modern fragility. In today's world, fragility hides behind a mask of strength. People scream strength online, but crumble in silence offline. They flex wealth, but can't handle rejection. They quote motivation, but collapse at the first real obstacle. This is not strength. This is performance. True strength is tested only when the world strips you bare. And when that happens, most discover they are not warriors. They are actors. The first Stoic lesson, expect the blow. Why don't Stoic warriors break? because they expect life to hit them. Marcus Aurelius began his mornings reminding himself, "Today you will meet the arrogant, the ungrateful, the deceitful, the envious, the selfish." Why? Because expectation disarms shock. The fragile person cries, "How could this happen to me?" The Stoic warrior says, "I knew this would come, and I'm ready." Preparation transforms pain into training. The cost of breaking. Let's pause and be brutally honest. Breaking isn't just weakness, it's expensive. When you break, you lose years of progress. You sabotage your dreams. You hand your power to others. And the cruelest part, you break once and it becomes a habit. You train your brain to retreat instead of resist. But resilience is also habit. Every time you refuse to break, you build the muscle of strength, and soon storms that used to terrify you will barely move you. So here's the first truth you must accept. The world will try to break you. Through failure, betrayal, chaos, and loss. Most people will collapse, not because the storm was too strong, but because their spirit was too weak. But you, if you walk the Stoic path, if you embrace reality instead of fleeing it, you will discover the secret of the ancient warriors. You cannot be broken unless you choose to be, and that choice begins now. A warrior without armor is already defeated. He may have strength, but every arrow finds his flesh. He may have courage, but every wound weakens his resolve. The Stoics understood this perfectly. Life is a battlefield, and if you walk into it unprotected, the first strike will tear you apart. So what was their armor? Not steel, not bronze, not shields and helmets. Their armor was invisible. It was built inside their minds. Epictetus, a slave who had nothing, gave us the first and most powerful armor. Some things are in our control and others not. Simple words, but these words are like a sword that cuts through chaos. Think of the last time you felt destroyed. Was it because of what actually happened, or because you obsessed over things you couldn't control? You can't control how people talk about you, but you can control how you respond. You can't control if markets crash, jobs vanish, or plans fail. But you can control your discipline, your skills, your resilience. You can't control betrayal or rejection, but you can control whether you let it define you. The Stoic warrior's secret? He wastes no armor on what doesn't belong to him. He protects only his thoughts, choices, and actions. And when arrows of chaos fly, most people scatter. But the Stoic smiles, because the arrows never belong to him anyway. Fragile people collapse because life shocks them. They expect comfort, and when pain arrives, they panic. Stoics turn this upside down. Every morning, Marcus Aurelius prepared himself. Today, you will meet the ungrateful, the arrogant, the deceitful, the selfish. Seneca advised. Rehearse death, exile, torture, all that can happen. Why? Because expectation makes pain familiar. When you've imagined the storm, its thunder cannot surprise you. Think of a boxer. He doesn't train by pretending the fight will be easy. He trains by expecting punches. The Stoic does the same. He imagines loss, betrayal, hardship, not to suffer twice, but to suffer less. So when life delivers its blow, he whispers, "I knew you were coming," and the strike bounces off his armor. This is the shield that makes the Stoic unbreakable. Anyone can endure what happens, but the Stoic goes further. He loves it. Marcus wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." Most people collapse because they see obstacles as curses. The Stoic transforms them into fuel. Fired from a job? opportunity for reinvention, betrayed by a friend, proof of who's real, rejected in love, redirection toward growth. This isn't blind optimism, it's radical strength. Because when every attack becomes nourishment, when every obstacle becomes a stepping stone, you no longer fear fate, you embrace it. And the warrior who embraces his fate cannot be broken by it. Here's the blunt truth. The weak are owned by their cravings. They are slaves to sugar, to screens, to approval, to comfort. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." The Stoic warrior builds discipline like iron around his soul. He delays desires. He resists impulses. He trains his mind daily to say, "I own you, you don't own me." And discipline is more than denial, it's power. Because when you can command yourself, no enemy can command you. The undisciplined crumble at temptation. The disciplined, they walk through fire without burning. At dawn, Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal, "At Tidal night, Epictetus told his students to review their day." Why? Because reflection is sharpening the sword of the mind. Most people walk through life blind. They repeat mistakes without noticing. They lose battles without asking why. But the Stoic warrior studies himself like a general studies maps. Every victory, every failure, every weakness, he learns from all of it. And day by day, this practice hardens him. His armor thickens, his spirit sharpens. By the time life attacks, he's already 10 battles ahead. Strange, isn't it? That silence itself could be armor. Seneca wrote, "Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it." The fragile brag, boast, and explain. The Stoic acts quietly, consistently, without applause, and this silence protects them. Because when the world mocks, they don't break. They don't need validation. When the world doubts, they don't explain. Their life is their proof. Silence is power. It shields you from noise, from distraction, from the need to prove. And in that silence, the Stoic grows unshakable. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." He also practiced what modern philosophers call the view from above. He imagined himself looking down at earth. Tiny humans, tiny problems, tiny fears. Why? Because perspective is armor. The fragile see problems as the end of the world. The Stoic sees them for what they are. Dust in the vastness of time. What is heartbreak compared to eternity? What is failure compared to the span of the universe? What is rejection compared to the endless turning of stars? Perspective shrinks pain, and when pain is small, it cannot break you. The unseen armor. So put it together: control, preparation, love of fate, discipline, reflection, silence, perspective. This is the invisible armor of the Stoic warrior. It cannot rust, it cannot break, it cannot be stolen. And when the arrows of chaos fly, when storms of betrayal and loss rage, the Stoic stands tall. Not because life is easy, not because he feels no pain, but because he wears armor forged in the fire of philosophy. Most people collapse because they step onto the battlefield naked. They expect comfort, and when pain comes, it tears them apart. But the Stoic, he wakes up every day, straps on his invisible armor, and walks into chaos with calm eyes. And in that calmness lies his power. Because you cannot break a warrior whose armor is his own soul. A warrior without training is only brave in his imagination. On the battlefield, courage fades quickly if the body is weak, if the mind is unprepared. The Stoics knew this. That's why their philosophy was never just ideas in books. It was practice, discipline, daily training. Because The warrior who doesn't train daily will fall when life tests him. But the warrior who trains his soul every morning, every evening, every moment, that warrior cannot be broken. Battle, Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, began every day with war, not against enemies, against himself. At dawn, when his body begged for sleep, he wrote in Meditations. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I am rising to do the work of a human being. This was not motivation. This was training. Every morning is the first battlefield. The alarm rings and comfort whispers, stay. Discipline answers, rise. The Stoic warrior knew, win the first battle of the day and the rest becomes easier. Lose it and weakness spreads like poison. So they trained by rising early. They trained by rejecting the soft bed, the temptation of delay, the lie of 5 more minutes. To them, each dawn was resurrection, one more chance to prove, I am not my weakness, I am my will. Seneca often practiced poverty voluntarily. He wrote, set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself all the while, is this the condition that I fear? Why? Because the untrained collapse when hardship comes. The trained? They already rehearsed it. The Stoic warriors trained by eating plain food, sleeping on hard surfaces, wearing rough clothes. They sought discomfort before discomfort sought them. This wasn't punishment. It was inoculation, a vaccine against weakness. Modern science confirms it. When you expose yourself voluntarily to stress, cold, hunger, discomfort, you build resilience. The Stoics knew it centuries ago. That's why hardship was their gym. Every voluntary struggle, every chosen discomfort built invisible muscles of strength. Epictetus told his students, when the light has been taken away and my wife has fallen silent, I examine my entire day and go back over what I've done and said. The untrained live blindly. They repeat mistakes without seeing them. They stumble into the same traps again and again, but the Stoic warrior never ended his day without reflection. Morning was battle. Evening was review. He asked himself, where did I win today? Where did I lose? Where must I train harder tomorrow? This daily reflection sharpened the mind like a blade. It kept the warrior awake to his own flaws, and because he saw them daily, he mastered them. The fragile hide from their weaknesses. The Stoic studies them like an enemy general studies the battlefield. Every day the Stoics imagined loss, not to suffer twice, but to suffer less. Seneca advised, he robs present ills of their power, who has perceived their coming beforehand. They imagined losing loved ones, wealth, comfort, even life itself, not to depress themselves, but to prepare their hearts. Most people live in denial. When tragedy strikes, it shatters them. The Stoic lived in reality. He whispered, death may come today, betrayal may come today, loss may come today. And when it came, he was already ready. The untrained cried, why me? The Stoic answered, I knew you were coming. Let's fight. This daily visualization turned fear into acceptance, and acceptance into strength. Epictetus warned, freedom is not achieved by satisfying desires, but by eliminating them. Desires are chains, they bind the weak. Food, pleasure, comfort, approval, the more you chase them, the more they own you. So the Stoic trained by denying desires, not forever, but daily. Delay the coffee. Skip the luxury meal. Walk instead of riding. Say no when craving says yes. Every denial was training. Every refusal built the muscle of control. And slowly, the warrior no longer obeyed his cravings. He commanded them. The weak beg for freedom. The Stoic creates it. The fragile waste strength in endless words. They argue, they boast, they gossip. The Stoic warrior trained his tongue. He spoke little, acted much. Zeno, founder of Stoicism, said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we may listen twice as much as we speak." This training gave them clarity, because silence is not emptiness. It is energy conserved. It is power focused. The untrained shout. The Stoic whispers, and his presence echoes louder than noise. Marcus Aurelius wrote meditations, not for us, but for himself. It was his training journal, a place to wrestle with weakness, a forge to shape his mind. Every word was self-training. Every page was a drill for the soul. This habit is why his wisdom survives centuries. Not because he was born great, but because he trained daily in writing. The warrior who writes sharpens. The warrior who sharpens survives. Finally, Stoic warriors trained in service, not because it was easy, but because service is struggle, and struggle builds strength. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What is your profession?" To be a good man. For him, ruling Rome was duty, not privilege. For Epictetus, teaching students was service, not fame. For Seneca, advising emperors was responsibility, not comfort. Each act of service trained them to rise above ego, to put others before self, to turn suffering into contribution. And the warrior who serves becomes unbreakable, because he no longer fights only for himself. He fights for something larger, and that strength is inexhaustible. Why training matters. Most people think resilience is born. It isn't. It is trained, day by day, morning by morning, choice by choice. The Stoic warriors did not wait for crisis to prepare. They trained daily, so that when crisis came, they were already unshaken. So understand this: you will not become unbreakable by listening once, by reading once, by nodding and forgetting. You become unbreakable the way the Stoics did, by training daily, by winning the morning battle, by practicing discomfort, by reflecting nightly, by mastering desire, by writing, by serving. This is the forge of the Stoic warrior. This is where unbreakable souls are built. And if you step into this training ground daily, you too will wear the invisible armor. You too will become the warrior life cannot break. Every true warrior lives by a code, not written on paper, not forced by kings or generals, but carved deep into their soul. For the Stoic warrior, this code was not about conquering lands. It was about conquering themselves. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. This was the foundation of the warrior's code. It began with self-command. A warrior could not afford to be ruled by anger, lust, or fear, because the man who cannot command himself will never command victory. The Stoics taught 4 unshakable virtues, their unbreakable law: wisdom, to see clearly even when chaos blinds everyone else; courage, to face not only swords and spears, but pain, loss, and death without trembling; justice, to treat others fairly even when hatred tempts revenge; temperance, to restrain desires, because excess is the death of warriors. Think about this. The Roman legions conquered half the world, but what kept them unbroken was not iron armor. It was this inner armor of virtue. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." The Stoic warrior's code was freedom, not the freedom of kingdoms, but the freedom of the soul. And every morning, They sharpened this code like a sword. They reminded themselves, pain is a teacher, death is a companion, fate is the battlefield, and the only true enemy is weakness within. A code is nothing until it is tested, and the Stoic warriors were tested in the fire of life. Look at Marcus Aurelius. He was emperor of Rome, but also a man who buried children with his own hands. He faced plague, betrayal, and war that could have broken any other soul. Yet he wrote calmly in his journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He faced the unbearable, yet remained unbroken. Epictetus was born a slave, beaten, crippled, treated as less than human. But when his master twisted his leg and broke it, Epictetus simply said, "You will break my leg, and you will not break my will." Think about that. The body shattered, but the spirit unbending. Seneca, ordered to die by his own student Nero, did not beg, did not tremble. He slit his veins, spoke calmly to his friends, and turned his death into a final lesson on freedom. This is the trial of fire, not comfort, not applause, but chains, betrayals, wounds, and death itself. And through it all, the Stoic warriors proved the truth. A man who has mastered his mind cannot be broken by the world. Modern psychology confirms it. Resilience does not come from avoiding pain. It comes from facing it, reframing it, using it as fuel. Exactly what the Stoics practiced. So when life burned them, they did not collapse. They burned brighter. Now you may ask, what does this warrior's code matter to me? I'm not holding a sword. I'm not marching with legions, but you are wrong. Because today's battlefield is everywhere. The modern battlefield is the office where stress and politics wage war on your mind. It's the screen in your hand, feeding you envy, distraction, and fear. It's the betrayal of friends, the rejection of love, the failure of dreams. Your enemies wear no armor. They come dressed as doubt, anxiety, depression, and despair. And yet, the Stoic warrior's code is the weapon you need most. When the market crashes, courage. When people gossip and slander you, justice. When failure mocks you, temperance. When uncertainty overwhelms you, wisdom. This is how Stoicism transforms into the most practical philosophy of survival in 2025. The old warriors faced arrows. You face endless notifications. They fought hunger and cold. You fight apathy and distraction, different weapons, same war. Because the greatest war is always the same, the war within. Every time you resist comparison on social media, you are a Stoic warrior. Every time you say no to fear and yes to courage, you sharpen your sword. Every time you suffer loss, yet remain calm, you prove yourself unbroken. The Stoic warrior doesn't just live in history, he lives in you, if you choose to rise. Now comes the question, how do you become this unbreakable Stoic warrior? The path is not in words, it is in practice. Here are the rituals, the training, the daily discipline. When you wake, don't grab your phone. Grab your journal. Write, what is in my control today? What is not? Then promise, I will master the first. I will release the second. Close your eyes and imagine losing what you love. Your health, your home, the people closest to you. Not to fall into despair, but to awaken gratitude. When you open your eyes, every breath feels like a gift. Do one hard thing every day, a cold shower, a workout when tired, saying no when afraid. Each act trains the muscle of courage. Before sleep, ask, where was I a warrior today? Where was I weak? How will I fight stronger tomorrow? When hardship strikes, whisper, this is fuel. Turn every pain into power, every setback into fire, and slowly, day by day, something happens. You stop being ruled by moods. You stop collapsing when life hits. You stop fearing tomorrow because you realize you are no longer breakable. This is the path of the Stoic warrior, not to become invincible to wounds, but invincible in spirit, not to conquer nations, but to conquer yourself. And when people see you, they will whisper, "How is he so calm in the storm? How does she stand unshaken when everything collapses?" And you will smile because you know the secret. The world can break your body. It can burn your home. It can betray, reject, and curse you. But if you follow the warrior's code, if you master the fire within, then nothing, no enemy, no fate, no storm will ever break you. Because you are more than flesh. You are more than fear. You are a Stoic warrior. And the Stoic warrior does not break. He rises again and again